the government of Canada actually created what they call an emergency travel authorization. And it basically allows those Ukrainians who needs to flee to come to Canada to go away from that situation to apply. And this will be a much faster way to come to Canada. Because this application will eliminate all of the normal process or all of the normal visa requirements that a regular person who wants to come, or Ukrainian in this case, to come to Canada will need to meet. So it's an easy way to come to Canada. They will be allowed to be in the country for up to 2 years, and then and they can apply for a work permit once they're here, for an open work permit, which might open actually the door to permanent resident. The government also has another option for those who wants to be reunited with family member. As you probably heard, Canada allows to sponsor family members, so we can. But in this case, since there's no clear rules yet, the government should announce that pretty soon. But my understanding is that the government might extend the definition of family member. So some Ukrainians can not only sponsor their spouses and dependent, but they might be able to sponsor sibling potentially. And that is a depart from what the norm is, that usually a family member is not a sibling. A family member for immigration is your spouse, your parents, grandparents, and dependent children. So siblings, as much as we love them, they might not be considered family member, but this might be an option for those who have siblings, like my friend who have actually his brother living in Ukraine, and he wants him to come to Canada on a permanent basis. And so they can submit his application and they will be processed probably faster. That's what the government has promised. So those are the options at this point, which to me it's amazing, because probably you don't know, but Ukrainians, they do need visas to enter Canada. And the process is pretty lengthy to apply for a visitor visa. I heard the Minister of Immigration to talk about why they did not lift the requirements of visa. And that was what many people were calling, to lift that visa requirements for Ukrainians. But his explanation makes sense to me, is that it takes longer because you have to make some amendments sometimes to the regulations to add, where this program say they still need to apply for some sort of visa, but the requirements will not be the same, will be processed differently.
So they still have to get a visa, but applying under this category is just expedited, it's faster?
It is not only expedited as faster, it's also they do not have to meet the normal requirements for a visitor visa. For a visitor visa, you have to provide evidence of financial support. You have to provide tons of documentation that prove that you have strong ties to your home country, in this case, Ukraine. You have to provide probably letters of employment. So all of these requirements that in a regular visa, you have to provide. And most important for a visitor visa, the legal test is you have to prove that you will be able to return to your home country at the end of the stay in Canada.
Right.
So there's no that requirement. They still have to go through the process of getting the biometrics, which is just to make sure security check backgrounds. And my understanding is the government actually already have deployed different offices, the centers where they're gonna have those Ukrainians who wants to come to Canada and apply for this authorization to go to these centers and get their fingerprints. So, but it is much faster. It's going to be, visitor visas can take a long time for someone who has family in Brazil, who has family in countries where they need it. I know it takes a long time, and usually sometimes they refuse. But I don't see in these cases, unless it's some criminal background check that comes that you were involved in some sort of genocide, whatever. So
Right.
yeah, I don't foresee that there will be any type of refusals for those who wants to come and meet any criminal. There's no criminal background.
So sounds like kind of two options that might be available. One is that visitor visa, the requirements are relaxed, and that would be for someone who doesn't necessarily have ties to Canada, but is looking to get out of Ukraine. And then number two would be the, that sponsorship route, and those requirements are maybe going to be relaxed as well. Is that right?
Yes, they also, for those Ukrainians who are already here, the government is actually will allow them to stand their visitor status here and to also apply for a work permit.
Okay.
But here, all Ukrainians that might be abroad and they might need to apply for a citizenship grant for adoption for, or they have already a permanent resident being processed, they promise that they're gonna process that faster.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Paperwork can people do on their own, and when would they need to engage a lawyer?
They can do that on their own, but I would suggest to at least get the advice of an immigration lawyer so that they complete the forms, whatever form they need to complete, whatever documentation they need to submit, that they are correct, that you submitted the correct forms, the correct documentation. And I think at that point, they should engage a lawyer.